Christmas celebrations fell off terribly in the last decade because the best vintage Christmas decorations that make the season look Christmassy are no longer used. From glass icicles to Victorian Christmas crackers, these are 20 vintage Christmas decorations that have disappeared. And first on the list is cotton snow. In the good old days, you could use cotton snow to make your home feel like winter without the cold. You would always find it spread under Christmas trees, mantles, and little holiday villages. Cotton snow was like a cozy blanket for decorations, making everything look frosty and magical. It was just the perfect decor loved by everyone. Sadly, new Christmas decorations like spray snow and synthetic fluff became more popular because they were easier to use and looked more realistic. They also didn't leave fibers everywhere, so cotton snow slowly disappeared, becoming something people only see in old pictures attached to holiday cards. Speaking of holiday cards, that's another vintage Christmas decoration that has disappeared. Holiday cards were such a big deal during Christmas that it was literally impossible to wish someone happy holidays without one. The cards had beautiful pictures and heartfelt messages that made their recipients feel so special. Families would hang them on walls. Some even became keepsakes, saved in boxes for years. But now, people send cards less due to emails and social media because it's faster to send a quick Happy Holidays online. As a result, holiday cards aren't as common as they used to be, edging them into the long-lost list of vintage Christmas decorations together with aluminum Christmas trees. Back in the 1960s, aluminum Christmas trees were the perfect vintage Christmas decoration. It was a highly sought-after Christmas decoration because they came in shiny silver or bright colors, making them stand out from traditional green trees. People loved how modern they looked, especially how lights reflected off the tree's metallic branches. To call them just special would be an understatement, but as time passed, people wanted their trees to look more natural. This ushered in the production of artificial trees made to look like real evergreens, forcing aluminum trees to go out of style. However, you might see one in a museum or a retro-themed house, but they're less popular than they used to be. Another popular tree decor that has also disappeared is tinsel icicles. Tinsel icicles were once a must-have for decorating trees. They were shiny strands that could be thrown over branches to make the tree sparkle like ice. Tinsel icicles were particularly special because they added a unique feel to trees that truly reflected the season. Sadly, they came with a big problem. They were messy. Tinsel icicles would stick to clothes, carpets, and even pets. They were also not eco-friendly, which made them less appealing. Over time, people started using garlands or ornaments instead because they were easier to handle and didn't require much cleaning up. Today, it's rare to see those glittery decorations, but they're still remembered for their classic Christmas charm. Another Christmas decoration that people will never forget are glass icicles. As the name suggests, glass icicles were delicate ornaments that made Christmas trees look covered in frost. Since they were made from glass, they sparkled in the light, adding a magical glow to the decorations. Unfortunately, these magical decorations were fragile, making them easy to break, especially in houses with kids or pets. Nobody wants to remember Christmas because of the injuries they got, so plastic versions soon replaced them because they were safer and lasted longer. While some people still treasure their old glass icicles, most families have moved on from them, and they are now more of a collector's item. One other decoration that used to be popular, but is now also a collector's item, is the tinsel garland. Tinsel garlands were a big hit in the 1950s. These shiny silver strands were wrapped around Christmas trees to make them sparkle like stars. People loved how they caught the light, making their homes feel extra magical during the holidays. It was really a sight worth seeing. The tinsel back then was made of lead, so it was only a short time before we realized it wasn't safe to have around. By the 1970s, tinsel garlands were replaced with plastic versions. These new ones were pretty, but didn't have the same weight or shine as the old ones. Now, tinsel garlands are mostly memories from old photos. One other design you must have seen in a picture or heard about in stories are popcorn garlands. Back in the Victorian era, popcorn garlands were the perfect homemade decoration. Families would make popcorn, sometimes dye it, then string it together before wrapping it around their trees. It made the house smell great and gave the tree a natural, old-fashioned look. It was also a fun holiday activity because everyone in the family helped make them. However, as time went on, stores started selling pre-made decorations that were easier to use and also lasted longer. Popcorn garlands are still used by some people who love traditional or DIY holiday vibes. Speaking about DIY-related things, hand-painted ornaments were also popular back in the day. Hand-painted Christmas ornaments date back to the mid-19th century. They were tiny, colorful, unique art pieces that families passed down through generations, treating them like treasures. But when factories started mass-producing ornaments, the new ornaments became cheaper and easier to buy. The hand-painted ones slowly disappeared, and now, most ornaments are plastic or metal. If you find hand-painted ones today, they're probably antiques or fancy ones sold in specialty stores. Another old Christmas decoration is the Victorian Christmas crackers. Victorian Christmas crackers were like surprise party favors for the holidays. They were little tubes wrapped in colorful paper and filled with small toys, paper crowns, and jokes. They loudly pop when you pull them open and spill their goodies. Kids loved them, and even adults did, because they gave them the feeling of childhood again. Over time, simpler versions replaced the fancy handmade ones. Now, crackers are mostly seen in the UK or in fancy holiday displays. They're still fun, but the old Victorian ones were much more special, just like the tradition of using real candles on trees. Before electric lights, people lit their Christmas trees with real candles. They clipped them to the branches and lit them during special moments, like Christmas Eve. The warm, flickering light made the tree look magical, but it was also really dangerous. Trees could catch fire easily, so families had to be extra careful. Once electric lights became available in the early 1900s, candles started disappearing from trees because electric lights were much safer. Using real candles on a tree is rare today, but they're still remembered in old pictures and stories. In the 1950s and 1960s, angel hair was a popular Christmas decoration. It was made of super thin glass fibers, resembling soft clouds or shimmering spiderwebs. People used it to make their trees or mantles look magical, almost like they were touched by winter fairies. Sadly, angel hair had a downside. It was an itchy material, and the tiny fibers could irritate your skin and eyes. It was also flammable, so putting it near Christmas lights or candles seemed like an extreme sport. Over time, people stopped using angel hair when safer and easier decorations became available. Today, it's mostly remembered in old photos and holiday stories. One other decoration you'd find in holiday stores is the celluloid Santa figures. Celluloid was one of the first plastics ever invented, and it was only proper to make Santa figures out of them. These Santa figures were a must-have in the early 1900s, and they were often placed on mantles and windowsills to spread Christmas cheer. Although they looked festive, celluloid had its own problems. If placed too close to heat, it could easily crack, fade, or even catch fire. As civilization advanced and safer plastics became common, these Santa figures disappeared from many homes. Do you know how boiling water or soapy water forms bubbles? There was a vintage Christmas decoration that could do that. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to bubble lights. Bubble lights were a fun and flashy Christmas decoration in the 1940s and 1950s. Each light had a tiny glass tube filled with colorful liquid that created bubbles when the light bulb got hot. Watching them bubble was like seeing a science experiment right on your tree, but they also had their disadvantages. The glass was fragile and the liquid inside could leak if the light broke. Over time, modern, safer LED lights replaced them. Bubble lights are rare today, but they remain a symbol of vintage holiday charm for those who remember their magical glow. If you want to speak about a vintage Christmas decoration that felt so magical, nothing beats the cornucopia tree decorations. Cornucopia tree decorations looked like little elf hats hanging on Christmas trees. They held small treats like nuts, candy, or tiny toys and were a kid's favorite during the holidays. They were very popular during the Victorian era when handmade decorations were the norm. These cornucopia tree decorations began fading when mass-produced ornaments became more affordable, so people chose the shiny, ready-made trinkets over handmade cornucopias. Although cornucopia tree decorations are not common anymore, they still remind us of simpler times when holiday traditions were about creativity and family fun. But even with creativity, the cornucopia couldn't match the German glass cougars. German glass cougars and other hand-blown ornaments were first made in the 1800s. These intricate decorations, carefully shaped by artisans and painted with beautiful details, were treasured Christmas tree ornaments. They were so delicate that families treated them like jewels, packing them away carefully after each holiday season. It was just that item you wanted nothing to happen to. When plastic decorations and ornaments that couldn't shatter easily became popular, these glass treasures became less practical. Still speaking on Christmas decorations that were everything glass, there was the blown glass animal ornaments. Blown glass animal ornaments were super cool decorations during the Victorian era. Made by hand, these ornaments looked like tiny animals. They could take the shape of birds, deer, and even fish. They were shiny and colorful and brought a bit of nature to the Christmas tree. Each one was like a piece of art, but there was a small problem. They were not only fragile, but also very expensive. As time passed, factories started making decorations cheaper and harder to break. Families switched to these mass-produced ornaments because they were easier to use and didn't shatter if dropped. One other Christmas decoration that kids especially loved to make was paper chains. Paper chains were a fun and easy DIY project that families loved to work on together. All you needed was strips of colored paper, some glue, or tape, and a bit of imagination. Put one strip through another, and soon you'll have a garland to hang over your tree or mantle. But what made paper chains even more special was that they made the family spend time together, laughing and creating decorations. It wasn't just about decorating. Sadly, when other shiny pre-made decorations like tinsel and string lights became available, paper chains disappeared. They're mostly a nostalgic craft, bringing back memories of simpler times, when the holidays were about handmade happiness. While paper chains were great and made in a warm room's confines, the next decor brought an outside wonder inside the room during the holiday seasons. Homemade paper snowflakes were one of the best Christmas decors that welcomed the winter season. All you needed was paper, scissors, and just like that, you were on your way to production. Families would fold paper into triangles and carefully cut out shapes to create unique designs. Then, they'd hang these snowflakes on windows, walls, or trees, turning their homes into a winter wonderland. The best part? No two snowflakes were ever the same, just like in nature. But when decorations from stores became affordable, fewer people made paper snowflakes. The next Christmas decor on our list had a similar ending. Feather trees were the original fake Christmas trees. Invented in Germany in the 19th century, they were made from goose feathers dyed green and stuck onto wooden sticks to look like branches. These trees were small, reusable, and great for conserving real trees during a time when deforestation was a concern. Families loved them because they were easy to set up and also because they didn't make a mess like real trees. However, feather trees faded as plastic trees became more realistic and cheaper. But they didn't go down alone. Their tiny friends, called the Christmas Putz villages, also went down with them. Christmas Putz villages were tiny magical towns that families set up under their Christmas trees or on mantles. These little scenes made of paper or cardboard included houses, shops, and tiny people. Every year, families would add new pieces, making their village grow. Kids loved creating stories about the tiny people in these festive towns. But as fancy ceramic villages became popular, the handmade Putz villages disappeared. The ceramic ones were shinier, sturdier, and ready-made. Today, Putz villages are a special piece of history, reminding us of how families celebrated the holidays with creativity and imagination. If you could bring any of these decorations back, which one would you pick? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to enjoy more videos. Happy holidays, and see you next time!